Welcome back. Now, the big story. Rivals for late November presidential elections, Vice President Kamala Harris and former U.S. President Donald Trump held their first presidential debate in Philadelphia today. On the weaponization of the Department of Justice, Trump raised the assassination attempt on him. Let's listen in.
The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris.
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump.
They have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me. I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. We must have a 2-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you.
She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Don't lie.
She went out.
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. And he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
All right, let's quickly get in my guests at this point to respond to this. We have Robinder Sachdev, founder, president of Imagindia Institute, and we have Pathikrit Pen, geopolitical analyst, joining me as well. Mr. Sachdev, I'll come to you first. What was your reading of this debate here? Now, it's very difficult to always read a Donald Trump debate because it's genuinely high on rhetoric, less on substantive facts, but that's what's worked for him in the past. But my assessment from watching the body language was that Kamala Harris, by keeping a persona in which she was smiling, often ridiculing, mocking, did end up unnerving Donald Trump a bit more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you're absolutely on the mark. You know, when I was watching the debate in the morning, it seemed that, yes, see, for Harris, the first thing was that would she be able to at least perform to a certain level, you know, just not melt away, because this would be her first presidential debate. Yeah. She cleared that bar. The other thing was that how would Trump perform? Trump, throughout the debate, ended up being on the defensive. And, you know, once the debate was over, if you see the commentary in the leading media, I mean, even American media, and even, you know, the Wall Street Journal, which is a, let's say, which is a right-leaning newspaper publication, all of them are saying that Trump got baited. He was on the defensive, and Kamala performed well. In fact, some of them were saying that she performed very well. The most charitable ones are saying that he took the bait, he should not have taken the bait, and that Kamala got under his skin. There were several exchanges or the topics she brought up, which kind of little bit, you know, Trump stumbled over those topics in a sense, and he went off into his particular aspects. One particular one was that where he got talking about that, you know, immigrants actually are eating pets, dogs and cats of American citizens. Actually, there is some rumors going on in some right-wing social media that immigrants from Haiti in Springfield are, you know, kidnapping the pets and eating them. So he kind of spent half a minute on that. So, I mean, in the overall, the debate did not go well for Trump. That's what I will say. It went well for Kamala Harris. However, the polling numbers which are out there, the two are still pretty much, within a 1% range. Trump could be leading also. But let's see what this debate impact is over the next few days of the polls. But as of now, not only as of now, it is clear that Trump was on the defensive. Very strange, he should have been, or he could have been on the more offensive, and Harris got him into a corner.
And that the contrast couldn't be more evident from the last presidential debate in which Donald Trump was across the podium from Joe Biden. Particularly, Pen, in hindsight, was the campaign to force Joe Biden out perhaps a big strategic blunder by Donald Trump, because that has singularly removed the greatest weaknesses of his opponents here, which would then have translated to his very great strengths. Because now suddenly Donald Trump comes across the person who is perhaps growing a bit old, perhaps who's a bit incoherent, perhaps is rambling. And now all of his attacks on Joe Biden's camp seem to have backfired, which is why momentum has been slipping away.
Well, let's not be, doing completely whitewash or do away with the Trump factor. Let's look at it that Trump is also a seasoned politician. The decision to remove Joe Biden as a presidential candidate was not of Trump's. I mean, it was a Democrat decision. Vivek Ramaswamy mentioned it much before the presidential election or contention started, that eventually the Democrats are going to remove Joe Biden. So because, Joe Biden did have some problems. If you look at the debate today, yes, I would definitely accept this, that Kamala Harris performed much better than what Biden was doing during the last major debate that both our presidential candidates had. But I would still say America as a society is deeply polarized. So the debates may have marginal impact, or probably in some of the swing states, but most of the states have already decided what they want to do. You mentioned that most of the time Donald Trump is on rhetoric. I respectfully disagree to this, because the issue of war being initiated by the Democrats is a reality. During the Trump era of 4 years, the Americans didn't go for any major war. In the last 4 years, you had a major Russia war. You had the whole of Middle East burning. It's a reality. Secondly, the issue of immigration, illegal immigration, whether we accept it or not, is a problem. And the Democrats have a very strong stand on that. That's their issue. And the Republicans have a very clear stand on that. Mind you, Trump is not against immigration. Trump has also said that he wants to give a green card to all the Indians who go to study there, because when they go back, they become billionaires. So the issue of illegal immigration is something which is plaguing the United States. The average American citizen does get impacted. But yes, Kamala Harris, I think from what I could make out from the debate, is actually making overtures, ensuring that her appeal to the black population, her appeal to the Latino population, her appeal to the Indian population, remains quite decent. And she's also playing the woman card, which she has the right to play. Defensive, yes, there are certain wild allegations from both sides would happen. But this is only one of the many debates which perhaps would happen. Let's see how Trump would fare.
Yes, and that's part and parcel, I would suppose, of any election campaign. Yeah, so let me just quit in Robinder Sachdev for a quick response, because I just have 1 minute left on this chat. Robinder, if one has to look at the swing states, which will, of course, decide this election like every other United States elections here, which way would they be likely to swing based on today's parliamentary debate, or do you feel, like Bhattacharya, that they've already made up their mind?
If the question is for me, apart from others, I would just say that with respect to Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris made a very smart statement. She referred regarding the Ukraine war. She said that Putin would be sitting in Kiev and his next target would be Poland. And then she said, there are 800,000 Polish Americans here in Pennsylvania who should be very much, afraid of that. So in a sense, what she did, she played that card with respect to Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania very much is a swing state.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Robinder, and also Bhattacharya, for joining us on this very brief debate. But we will be discussing this at length through Prime Time today, especially at 9:30 p.m. today on Global Mirror with my colleague Shreya Upadhyay.